Jake Ludington here at HP Discover, and I'm here with Rafal Los. And security seems to have gotten a little bit more complex as of late, and I think we're gonna find out what that complexity means for the enterprise.
Yes, it has. It has gotten significantly more complex, and it's more than just the big words you hear, big data and all that kind of stuff. It actually is significantly more difficult than just finding threats. Our customers look at what's eating them, right? What's eating their enterprise, and they're finding out that it's stuff that gets caught in the big filters, but it's also things that they're not finding in the traditional ways, right? So they have to marry multiple technologies together. Your SIM, your different types of data acquisition systems. There's the sensors that we have in the enterprise are literally everywhere. And the analogy I use, from the world of security here is that giving people a bunch of hammers, right, doesn't make everybody a carpenter. We need to. That's what we've broken for the last several years. Is lots of the CISOs out there, lots of the enterprise security managers are heavily overbought on technology that is not properly implemented. They're not getting maximum value out of. And so what we're finding is they're getting compromised or they're having difficulties, and they ask the question, well, how come? I've got all this technology here, I've got all these things here. And
so all the monitoring equipment doesn't necessarily mean you're secure?
Well, like I said, I use the analogy of, if I give 50 people hammers, it doesn't make them carpenters. We need blueprints. We need actual trained employees, right? We need the good material. The raw material is the hardware, software that powers these intelligence networks, but transforming that into something usable in a way that it puts multiple information sources together, does collation, does correlation, and then gives it to somebody to go do something about. Because the worst case scenario, and for a lot of these enterprises, is they get like 20 reports every morning that basically tell them, look, you've got 500 things going on right now, and there are 3 people that do security in their network are like, what can we do with this? And they have to prioritize by themselves, and that's not healthy, right? There's not a way to scale that.
Well, I think you kind of have hit on a key point in some of the things that you talk about in your blog, about you really need to think about who you're protecting yourself from.
Yeah, so there's that. There's what are you protecting, why are you protecting it, whom are you protecting it from, and then we can get into the why and how, right? The why is also important at the end, because once you got all that together, you got to kind of revisit that why, because prioritization becomes difficult. Oftentimes, I have somebody tell me that, as we sit with clients, they say, well, I need to protect my company. Like, the entire thing? It's like, well, of course. Well, everything in the entire thing? It's like, you realize that's a monumental feat, and it's very difficult to actually do. So you need to know what you're protecting, why you're protecting it, right? Whom you're protecting it from. Then you can start building a risk-based approach to how you're going to do that. And if you don't have the technology to do that, you have to start there, but you also need the people and the processes behind it to make sure it doesn't get like half implemented, or you're not just getting a report that says, hey, you've been compromised, and you look at it and go, great, I don't have anybody to do anything about this.
So what's the practical strategy to getting from asking these questions to actually something that's actionable?
So the actionable approach here is really take a look at your organization. Take an assessment, and it's sort of like look within to kind of understand yourself. This is one of those Sun Tzu quotes that we don't need to bring in again, but you have to actually understand yourself. So what do you have? What are your current investments, right? What are your people good at? Is your organization trained? Do you even know what the important assets in your organization are? And that's the key challenge, I think, for a starting point, is security tends to want to be inclusive of everything. And you have to understand what the important assets are, what is actually critical to protect. And if you don't, nothing beyond that works. So step one, do an assessment of yourself, figure out what you care about, figure out why you care about it. And then start looking at what do you already have, what are your current investments, what kind of technologies do you already have, do they work well together? If they don't, why the heck not? Right? Your technology should be working for you, with you, as opposed to working against you, where you've got 500 disparate different platforms feeding you tons and tons of data that you can't possibly do anything with, because that's what actionable insight is, right? Being able to actually do something with that data you get.
And isn't there also kind of this notion of people sort of build out a false sense of security around things like, let's say you set an email policy that you can't forward an email at Exchange, but then I could take the same data and download it and put it on a thumb drive and take it anywhere.
Yeah, well, we talked about this yesterday, I think, is we have these email policies because people tend to open everything they get in their email. So now we restrict, no PDFs, no EXEs, no any kinds of attachments. but you can go to your neighborhood-friendly website and go download it. You're like, okay, we're going to filter it there. Unless you install Dropbox, then you can share, in an encrypted fashion across multiple networks, things that could be threats, and you'll get compromised that way. So you have to have a sane strategy, understand why you're doing this. So like if you're blocking attachments, understand why you're blocking attachments. It's not because everybody else is doing it. It's got to make sense for your organization, because people sometimes, in different types of organizations require different ways to work. And if you don't enable them, they'll find ways, I promise you, right? It's not just I can't send email. They'll go, I can't send email that way, but I have to be productive. I can't wait 2 days for a file. I'll go find a different way. And that's how people get around security. That's why security fails, I think, a lot in the enterprise. Again, back to we don't understand our use cases, we don't understand our businesses. And now, right now, it's more important than it ever has been before, because the technology is getting so much more complex, the threats are getting so much more complex, and antivirus isn't a solution anymore.
Are the attack vectors really becoming, they're becoming more complex, but are they really becoming that, are they really that different in the sense that, phishing is probably still one of the leading ways that people get duped into giving up the network?
Shockingly, just from my personal perspective, I think the ways people get compromised haven't drastically changed that much over the years. It's a failure to understand your situational awareness, I guess, is what I'm getting at, right? The way people get attacked in the James Bond movies, you see these like cool 0-day attacks where they compromise your power outlet and get to your laptop and zoom in on what your password from a camera they've compromised at Starbucks. In reality, yeah, that sometimes happens in like really high profile cases, but what you really find is somebody was sent an attachment, they opened it, it was like one of those I heard a little while ago where password protected archives could be sent over email because they deemed those secure. So bad guys would password protect archives and they would send them. And that's like the equivalent of, you download a file, it looks suspicious, but you unzip it and then you run it anyway. It's easier just to send somebody a note that says, go buy a hammer, here's $5, go buy a hammer and just hammer your PC for a while. Because look, it's realistically, right, that's what's being done. And I don't know if it's changing that drastic. I think the approaches that the bad guys are taking prey on the weaknesses of each individual organization. So, if you're on social media a lot, they'll get to know you and they'll come at you that way. If you're a click-happy organization that clicks on every email, they'll come at you that way. If you're a Windows shop, they'll try to exploit Windows exploits. If you're a Linux shop, they'll do that. Right? They prey on, the criminal element preys on our own weaknesses, and most of the time we're too arrogant to admit that we have weaknesses, and then sort of too blind to then look inside ourselves and our own organizations to go, this is what our weaknesses are, this is what we care about, and we should probably do something about it, and that's why we get compromised. So
is one of the components here that might be a great strategy, kind of the notion of employee education to make people smarter about the kinds of, to create better situational awareness?
Yeah, employee education goes to a certain point, but you can't expect your employees to be security professionals, right? There's a limit to where that goes. Basically, making them aware of their surroundings is about where you can probably realistically expect it to be limited to. But what you can do beyond employee education, just blatant, kind of lunch and learn kind of things, is continuously make them aware of the things that are going on. And I don't mean like send action, alerts to every employee every time a new piece of malware comes out, because let's face it, that's silly. But let people know.
It also makes people ignore them and just delete the message.
And that's what they've done, right? We send hundreds of emails a year, and people just sort of go, it's more security things, they got that covered, and they'll just keep deleting them. But send them things in a way that they care. So one of the things we talk about Discover, and you'll see this a lot, is context. We need context, right? We need tools and technologies that provide us the context so that we can give people, our employees, for example, insight into what really they should be aware of. Not necessarily exactly what they should be doing, what the threat exactly is, but say, look, there are people preying on our bank right now. They want to get into your organization. Just be extra careful about what you open, who you let in the door, what you leave on your desk when you go home at night, that kind of thing, right? That's actionable. They can easily action on that, and it'll stick with them. So I think that's one of the big keys.